Angry guy here, and men are going MGTOW and abandoning society, and that's dangerous for women. Men are going MGTOW and abandoning society, and that's dangerous for women. So, why do I say that's dangerous for women? Well, we know what's happening right now. A lot of men are just completely disengaging from society entirely. They're fed up and they're walking away. They're living happier lives. But this is a serious situation. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago actually reach out in the comments, and he was in neuroscience, behavioral neuroscience, if I recall, and he said something interesting. He talked about how these men who are walking away from society, they represent the more intelligent men in society. So, for example, even in the black community, the men who are becoming passport bros, those are the best and brightest of the black community, and they are abandoning the black community, which is going to result in the IQ in the black community falling even more than it already has. And it's not only in the black community, it's going to be in all communities. We can look at Gen Z and see that they're not too bright. We can look at Gen Alpha, and Gen Alpha is even worse than Gen Z. Gen Z can't read or can just barely read. Gen Alpha cannot read at all. And you can watch videos regarding this. There are tons and tons of videos that literally talk about how messed up this generation absolutely. A lot of you like to say that I'm just over exaggerating when I say that these people cannot read. Well, Mayumi actually sent me over a video a couple of days ago, and I've been just waiting for the right time to use it. Let's just go ahead and jump into the video and see what some teachers are saying regarding the subject.
Can't read. They can't decode. They have no vocabulary, no background knowledge. I've never seen anything like it. They can't write a sentence. They don't know what state they live in. They don't know what region of the country they're in. They have no background knowledge. Most of them don't know who the president is.
Everyone is sick of Gen Alpha kids. So I talked about this on my main channel and the consequences of the iPad generation, right? These kids being raised by technology and phones and all these influencers. But this trend is kind of taking over TikTok right now. There's like an infinite amount of videos where teachers are just complaining about being unable to handle these rabid Gen Alpha kids, right? They're just being raised by like Skibbity Toilet, Among Us memes, and I don't know, Jack Doherty, Neon, these absolute degenerates like Aiden Ross. Not to mention their parents aren't that bright either. They're either from Gen Z or millennials. So these kids are turning out extremely rude, extremely stupid, extremely disrespectful, and they just can't follow simple instructions. So let's take a look at all these teachers complaining. Teachers sound the alarm on Gen Alpha behavioral problems. This is terrifying.
Young Gen Z teachers are talking about the poor behavior of Gen Alpha students, and some of y'all are finally starting to believe us when it comes to how much we've missed the mark on raising these kids right. Why don't we review some of the evidence from some of the other creators on this app who might be a little bit more of a relatable age.
This is my folder of crying teachers, and they are confused and frightened by the behavior of Gen Alpha. They're saying Gen Alpha is defiant.
Wait a minute, this girl looks like Sniper Wolf, doesn't she? Kinda.
Aggressive, disrespectful, and rude.
Having to teach and work with you guys as children has been the most traumatic experience of my life. They don't respect any authority. You ask them, can you stand in your designated spot? They're telling you no and shut up. They're throwing.
Oh my god, dude. I mean, I don't know about you guys, maybe it's the culture difference or something. I don't know if that's a normal thing, but in my school, you can't say that to a teacher. In fact, all the other kids will sort of beat you up if you try and, I don't know, be obnoxious. Now, obviously there were class clowns and stuff like that, and you'd kind of annoy the teacher by not listening or, I don't know, playing around in class or whatever, but you couldn't tell a teacher to shut up. Like, no, that's not allowed right there. You would get spanked, thrown out of class, and I don't know, you'd get a stern talking to.
The truth of the matter is that ultimately, a lot of the problem stems from the fact that men have been removed from the education system heavily. More and more men are not working as teachers. They're not working as school administrators. They've basically left the building. And you're seeing this especially with heterosexual men. where heterosexual men are basically like, you know what, we're done with this. You can still find some heterosexual men in academia at the very top level. So, for example, in research universities, you'll find a lot of these guys. When it comes to shaping the minds of our young people, these men have basically opted out. They've walked away. Guys, this is the result of pushing men, or rather men just saying, you know, we're done. We're taking our ball and going home. And of course, the women are complaining and screeching about how bad the children are. Gen Z is, correction, Gen Alpha is being called rabid, absolutely rabid. You cannot discipline them in any way whatsoever. And this is, I mean, come on. If you look at the woman who was speaking earlier, she looks like a Gen Zer. You have to remember that Gen Z, their years are 1997 through 2012. So for example, a lot of Gen Z teachers, you know, or Gen Zers will be 27 this year. The oldest Gen Zers are 27. To become a teacher, you typically only would have to be around 22, 23 years old, because you get your bachelor's degree and then you start working as a teacher. So many of these people are going to be like 24, 25. So it's very practical that a lot of the teachers that are now teaching Gen Alpha are reasonably Gen Z. And these Gen Zers are now meeting up with the same baloney that they pulled when they were in school, but it's coming back to them twice. Gen Alpha is going to, as I've said, many of them will never enter the workforce. Many of them will never work a day in their life. And when it comes to the, you know, MGTOWs, not all MWAs are MGTOWs, just to be clear. However, MGTOWs, this is something completely different. A lot of these guys have a mentality where, you know what, we don't want to have anything to do with women or society. And a lot of these dudes have stepped entirely away. Like, for example, a lot of MGTOWs, if they go into a store and there's a woman at the I helped create the community on YouTube. So I'm telling you, no one knows the community better than me. A lot of these guys, if they are sick, they go to the hospital. The only doctor they can see is a woman. They will go home. If they go into a store and the only cashier there is a woman, they will leave the store. This, guys, that whole thing about crossing the street, if you see someone who isn't a man coming in the other direction, they've been doing this for years. This has been going on for like a decade. And there are some serious consequences to this, because a lot of these men are separating themselves from society entirely. And we can see what the results of this is. America and other Western societies, where the men are completely walking away, and not just walking away, but separating themselves from anyone who isn't a guy, and even just society in general. That creates a society where no one can live. A society without its men is not a society. It is a country without its men is not a country. It's a wasteland. Look at the behavior of Gen Alpha. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Who do you think these people are going to become? Highly emotional, disrespectful, rabid. You don't have to be a genius to figure out where this is headed. We can just look to the prison system, and there's a lot of these same types of people in there. Can't read, can't write, very emotional, extremely disrespectful, rabid. Come on, the product of single mother households heavily. Guys, a lot of Gen Alphas are going to turn to crime. It could be petty crime, or it could be some very terrible stuff. I've already said this personally, like, Gen Alphas, like, a lot of them are going to end up doing some terrible, just absolutely horrible things. And you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. And where does that leave women in society? Not in a great place, because as men are walking away and some running away from society and basically separating themselves entirely. Guys, women think they don't need men. And they say things now like men need to leave jobs like police officers, firefighters, first responders alone, garbage men alone, and focus on making money so that they can, find a woman who will accept them. Well, here's the thing. A lot of these men will walk away from those jobs. They'll walk away from being a police officer. They'll say it's not worth it. They'll walk away from first responder work. They'll say it's not worth it. They'll basically just, because men will make enough money to survive and thrive, but they won't match without a wife and children. And as these people are continue to be born with low IQs and no father in the home and no men to help them learn how to control their emotions, they're going to end up just like the men who are in prison right now. Gen Alpha is going to have a large prison population. They're going to make up a large portion of the prison population in the future. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. If you look at what the traits are of men who are in prison, of women who are in prison. All right, 80% of the prison population comes from single mother households. A significant portion of the men in prison cannot read, cannot write, highly emotional. These specific traits of Gen Alpha are highly in line with people in prison. What kind of video games does Gen Alpha prefer to play? Let's talk about this, because it's very, very serious. It's really, really serious. When you look at the Nintendo Switch has games centered around things like, family-based games, but also, things that are not very violent. Even Zelda, for example, kind of takes the edge off. Mario Kart. These are family-friendly games. These are rated E for everyone. The games that Gen Z and Gen Alpha especially deviate to are your first-person shooters. They only want to play Call of Duty, Fortnite, and these types of games. What does that tell you about their personalities? These are violent people. Can't read, can't write, and all they want to do is follow things that are violent. Don't you see something wrong with that? And we're not talking about Power Rangers or G.I. Joe. No, we're talking about the worst of the possible worst. Like, they want simulated destruction. And it's like, not even like, my gosh. And some of you will say, well, come on, guys, you play GTA. Well, guys, a lot of people play GTA just because it's more of a real world simulator. GTA is a real world simulator. And while you can do some other things in there, the main purpose of playing GTA for most people is just to drive around and have fun, go on missions, buy property, the stuff like kind of basically live a life in the game that you would like to live in real life. It's kind of an escape from reality. But all Gen Z wants to do is, destroy things and delete people. And you have to question whether or not they have any semblance that, are they really old enough to understand reality from these games, because they've grown up entirely online. So this translates to the real world that these people won't have empathy for others. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, help get the channel to 100,000 subscribers on our journey to 2 million by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't, liking the video, and turning on notifications to never miss another video ever again. Men are abandoning society, and that's dangerous. What do you guys think regarding this? I want to hear your thoughts. So let's talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA men walking away, and cheers.